Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We got a banger today for you. Welcome to the show, Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis, and of course, we'll be joined by Ken Wiebe, Brandon Rewucki, and Sean Shapiro as well. Lots to get to today on the program. Really discouraging loss last night. I guess discouraging, I mean, obviously the result. Thought the team played a hell of a hockey game, but has been the has been the case for the 2025-26 Winnipeg Jets. No matter what, it's basically they're the Murphy's Law team. What can go wrong will, and despite playing simply one of their best games of the season. One mistake from Logan Stanley ends up in the back of your net. You give up a power play goal, and despite basically doubling the Oilers in shots and scoring chances last night, you can't get it past Calvin Pickard, who'd struggled immensely this year. And it's another loss in regulation at home. The Jets fall on the season to 15-18, along with four overtime losses. So 34 points through 37 games. I was just looking at the numbers today. Coming out of that game last night, the Jets still have a couple games in hand on most of the other teams in the Central and in the West, but they've got 15 wins on the season. This team started 15-1 last year. It has been, listen, I don't need to relitigate and go through everything that's happened so far this season, but there's a few common threads, and certainly the lack of secondary scoring was a big part of it. Nice goal by Adam Lowry last night. And to their credit, I was worried after the Stanley mishap that ended up in their net, and then Roslovic scoring, of course, an old Jet scoring against the Jets when he comes to town, that the team might really fall off and sort of be broken. And they weren't at all. I mean, it was a hell of an effort, and we'll hear from Scott Arniel in a minute. But it was one of those games that you probably definitely, I haven't looked at the deserve to winnow meter. I'm sure it was heavily in the Jets' favored. But listen, there's no time for, moral victories, as we've been saying for the last number of weeks. And that was a tough way to finish up these two games at home, coming out of the break with two of their best performances of the year and only 1 point to show for it. We'll talk about it with Reem. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arniel, Captain Adam Lowry, and then Brandon and Ken will join us to talk both about the Jets as they hit the road beginning tomorrow in Detroit for a quick 3 games in 4 nights. And we'll also get into what every Canadian hockey fan is waiting for, the announcement of the Olympic hockey roster, which we will find out tomorrow on the program. By the way, speaking of tomorrow, you're definitely going to want to join us for full reaction to the team. We're also going to have Marty Baron on right out of the gate tomorrow to talk about Canada's selection. So really looking forward to that as well. Welcome to everybody that's with us live on YouTube. Shout out to all you podcast listeners. Happy New Year to you all. And a Happy New Year to the wonderful sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet Canada, the Winnipeg Jets. Don't forget, next Friday, January 9th, their next WST game of the month. It's the après ski night. You can come out, hang out with us in Section 316, get those cool ski goggles that they've been giving out that Remis was wearing on the show last week. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST to grab your tickets and join us for a fun Friday night at the rink next week when the Jets take on the Los Angeles Kings. Also want to thank our friends at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, and Uptown Alley, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everybody in the chat, and welcome to Michael Remis. What's going on, dude?
Yeah, I'm eagerly anticipating this Team Canada roster. Very nervous if we're going to see Mark Scheifele's name or not, but also, we're thinking about the Jets game last night. Played just about as well as they could have. didn't allow McDavid to get a point on a goalie and still come away with a loss. And you have to be kind of sad looking at the NHL standings and scrolling to the bottom and seeing the Winnipeg Jets. But I'm trying to, put that in the back of my mind and just think of how excited I am for Olympic hockey and I guess New Year's coming up. I don't really care about New Year's Eve like I used to. It used to be like such a big deal. Now it's kind of another day for me.
Well, it's one more game in 2025 for the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm sure the Jets and their fans can't wait to just move the calendar over into the new year and start anew. They'll have a chance to get their 16th win of the season before the ball drops tomorrow in Detroit. They had a New Year's Day game in Toronto against the Maple Leafs, and I believe Saturday in Ottawa before the team comes back, and it goes another 3-4, albeit at home, against Vegas, the Edmonton Oilers that we just saw last night, and the Los Angeles Kings. A lot of good teams coming to Winnipeg during this upcoming homestand, but the first 3 games will be on the road beginning tomorrow. And, Reem, yesterday we were pretty clear that, listen, these 5 games were to get to the halfway point of the season were crucial for Winnipeg to get points. And this is the thing, like, we can talk about the game and a lot of the good that happened last night, how the Jets controlled the pace of play, how they won just about all the battles, how they limited Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to almost nothing. But it really is all for naught when you're not able to convert that into points. And listen, Calvin Pickard was good last night. I mean, the Jets have made a lot of goalies look good this year. No one was able to crack him other than Adam Lowry. And I thought the first line was awesome last night. I mean, the power play the puck never came out of the Edmonton zone. But once again, we're talking about a team that just couldn't score. And incredibly frustrating to walk out of the rink last night, certainly for fans, but also for players and head coach Scott Arniel, as we'll hear in a minute, that you do so many of the things that they set out to do, and it still doesn't result in results in the standings.
Yeah, shooting Edmonton 42-21. Number of guys having chances. You get that secondary scoring from Adam Lowry in his 800th game. The Jets position themselves, for great opportunity to win. Unfortunate turnover on the first goal. Jack Roslovic with the revenge goal, and if you want to point to one thing, Huss, they could have done better, it has to be the power play. 0 for 3. Velarde with some chances.
How did they not score last night?
I mean,
like, this wasn't the case of, when the power play is really in a funk and you can't get it into the zone and you can't get it set up and you're just not generating. It couldn't be more the opposite last night. The Oilers never were able to clear it. I mean, the PP1 was out there for like 145 at a time because they had control. They were generating stuff. They were getting to the loose pucks. It was just incredibly frustrating overall. And, in some ways, the Jets are sort of turning into, outside of injuries, and I'll touch wood on that, sort of a Murphy's Law team where if something bad can go wrong, it will. And listen, it did in spectacular fashion on that Stanley giveaway. Listen, I think we've all seen at times a team that maybe was looking a little fragile with what had happened. And listen, to their credit, that didn't break them. If anything, they pushed even harder after that, after those couple goals went in. But, in a tight game where you probably feel like you should be up 2 or 3 goals, but it's still 0-0, to serve up a turnover like that right in front of your own net and have a guy that wasn't even supposed to play, a fourth line guy that rarely gets into the lineup, score his first of the year. It just felt like it was pretty much par for the course with what this team's been going through over the course of the first 37 games.
It's just been tough, Huss. Even when they're playing well, not quite getting the bounces there. So, they're traveled to Detroit off day today, and we'll see how they can rebound. They need to, last year when they had this incredible start, and you could afford to be like, oh, we played well, didn't win. That's fine, on to the next one. But they need points. They need to keep pace. If they're playing well, they need to get something. And to get 1 point in the last 4 games after playing the way they did, It's just disappointing. Maybe it gives you some hope that, hey, on this road trip in Detroit, Toronto, and Ottawa, who are, I guess not, they're not at top of the league like the guys in their division, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota. They have opportunity to get some points here, although Detroit's 5th. I did not see that one coming with 49 points in the league. Opportunity to get some points, to try to get on a roll. They've shown throughout the year that when they take one step forward, they have a dud game the next one. So I don't know if what to expect in terms of consistency, but you have to like the way they've looked out of the break, and we'll see if they can keep it going in Detroit.
It's funny you mentioned the Wings because, yes, they are sitting 5th overall right now. They played 40 games, but they've got 49 points, so they're 9 games above 500. They've got a -4 goal differential.
Yeah.
The Jets have just basically got into the negatives over the past week or so and are now at -7. And that's the big difference. I mean, if you go down to the teams that they're in the neighborhood with, I mean, it's not even close. But again, it's not about goal differential. It's about wins. And they just have simply not done enough. I can't get over the fact that they have 15 wins right now as we go to New Year's. And this team started 15-1 last season. I mean, it's just been a night and day. And the time is ticking to turn this thing around and try and make a legitimate run for a playoff spot. Although I know for many people, they've sort of already turned the page on this season. And, maybe the result last night was good, to the people that, want this thing to, are not holding out hope for this season, want the team to get a high pick. I mean, listen, if you're paying for tickets, you want a team that's going to work hard and going to do everything. They did all of those things last night, with the exception of scoring enough goals to win the hockey game. So there were a couple of players that did stand out to me last night. Remember, we talked about the top line. The power play looked great. I thought that was Dylan Sambrick's best game of the season. I thought Neil Pionk was awesome. Seemingly Connor McDavid sort of really does bring out the best. And how about Pionk right out of the gate, dropping the gloves with Nuge? I did not have that one on my bingo card last night. So, I mean, it's really hard to nitpick and complain too much other than an absolutely egregious, horrible turnover that ended up really kind of changing the game and the inability to score on the million chances that they were able to create. But you can imagine that we had a very frustrated head coach of the Winnipeg Jets last night in Scott Arniel. Let's get over to post-game from last night. And, Arnie, these were his thoughts after really a loss that they felt like they deserved a better fate in.
That's tough. You know what? That was, again, that's 6 periods for me that have been how we have to play. The only difference is we need points. We need the points. We got to find a way to, score some more goals than the opposition. We have to, we got to get points. But I can't criticize the effort. I can't criticize the battle, the opportunities, the game plan that we threw at them to, against their elite players. All those things I asked them to do, they did it, and it's at the end of the day, we're not getting points, and that's the most important thing.
Adam breaks a long drought, but then other guys, get nothing.
Still waiting on guys, and it's hard because I'm hoping it for them, but at the end of the day, it's all part of what professional hockey players go through. Guys go through these slumps, and you got to find a way to get yourself out. There's just, obviously your teammates can help you, but it's, to me, if you put the hard work in and you find a way to maybe do something a little bit different than maybe you normally do, and hopefully you can get that goal that makes a difference in a hockey game.
Have you ever gone through something like this before?
Yeah, I think everybody has. Teams have seen. I don't know if I've seen. I guess there probably has been situations where it's been a group like this, but it's just kind of the overriding thing right now. Why we're in a game like that, we're playing a heck of a hockey game, and it gets stressed. It gets the whole. You can feel it. There's some stress happening, and guys aren't doing the natural things that they normally do.
You can tell, Reem, that, he and everyone, I think, in that locker room didn't have a lot of answers after the game last night, other than, saying that if you do that night after night after night, they'll be on the right side of the scoreboard more often than not. And, we often talk about, a guy that's somebody, in a slump that's squeezing the stick a little too tight. You could basically say that for more than half of the roster right now. And that, unfortunately, is not something new. That's been plaguing them all season long.
Yeah, it's kind of been, for a lot of these games, we could say the same thing over and over. And I joke with Connor about that on the postgame. But last night felt different. Felt like they played, they got to the game that they wanted to get to. We talk so much about, how strong McDavid and Draisaitl are. And, McDavid's on this crazy streak in December where he's been on 33 points on 33 goals, which is crazy. 13-game point streak now, and he doesn't score on a goalie, and you think, hey, you'll take that, limiting him, and you still don't win. And you look at the Jets in the last 25 games, 6, 15, and 4. Again, near the bottom of the standings. You can't really afford to have games where we like their game. Like, they need to win, they need to get points, and have games in this 6-game winless streak now, where you've played well and you come away with not 2. You look at the Minnesota game, the Ottawa game, certainly frustrating. Frustrating. So Utah as well, you lost in overtime after not showing up. It's tough.
Yeah, listen, and Scott Arniel last night, was asked by Murat afterwards about trying to balance the appreciation for the process, the work that the team is doing, how well they played and grinded for the full 60 minutes to give themselves a chance to win, and the result, which was a regulation loss. This is what he had to say on that.
Just played a team that just went to Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row, and we spent an awful lot of time in there in the rink. I think the process worked. Again, it's us finishing. The finishing aspect. Our power play spent almost the whole time in their end of the rink on our 3 power plays. We had 8 quality scoring chances on our power play. I mean, all these things have to kind of, when they all seem to be, everything seems to be working, you're scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game, you're not talking about this stuff. But for me, on the process side, we were complaining about our process and the kind of what we were doing earlier in the year and through stretches recently. In this last bit, this has been the best and the players would be the ones that admit it as well. This is the best we've played these last 6 periods. More like we have to play. And sooner or later this has to fall the other way, where these goals have to come. But I can't see us all of a sudden, we're not going to just go and throw it to the wind and just say, okay, here, we'll trade chances with the Edmonton Oilers. How's that going to end up? We already tried doing that earlier. Our process and our end of the rink, we're keeping these top teams under 10 scoring chances, 5-on-5. So for me, the process, I can keep saying that, but at the end of the day, just keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully that we can score some goals and we'll get some points.
That's there's Scott Arniel from last night. Listen, they'll take them from anybody right now. There was a significant amount of defensive opportunities last night, or sorry, I should say offensive chances from the defense. I think it's partly in the way that the Oilers were playing. Arniel talked a little bit about the activation of the D in the chances that unfortunately didn't turn into goals.
It has a little bit to do with Edmonton, how they really play low on how they defend, and they pack it in kind of low, and so it does open up the pucks to the top. And I think that one of the things is when you're not having success in scoring goals, when you start shooting these pucks from the top and you're getting high tips, you're getting screens, you're getting rebounds, those are the things, the type of goals that all those guys are hopefully maybe can get, that it gets them off the schneid, and maybe they can get back on the score sheet. So the worst thing you can try to do is be cute, try to make more passes. And there was a couple times tonight where I felt we should have shot and we should have attacked, but at the end of the day, if we're getting that volume from the top, that's creating the scramble that forces, in this case, Edmonton to get out of their structure, and then hopefully that's the chances that's a rebound, or it's kind of like Lau's goal. It was a bad angle shot into his feet, the rebound's sitting there and it's in the net. But I'd like to see about five of those happen in a game.
Right now, one more from Arneil, and listen, justifiably praising the Adam Lowry line and the Mark Scheifele line for the jobs they did in keeping two of the best players on planet Earth in check, and of course 97-29 McDavid and Draisaitl.
I think there was a double matchup, right? There was Scheif against Draisaitl most of the night, and it was Lau against McDavid, and those guys are elite. They're amazing players, and we've seen an awful lot of them. We saw what they did to us in their building the last time we were in there, and that's a yeoman's job that those guys did. But I just really wish it could have been rewarded with 2 points behind it.
All right, so that's what the coach had to say. As I mentioned, I thought Dylan Samberg had a monster game. He and Neil Pionk both really stepped up last night. And Samberg, has had some moments, maybe hasn't been at the level that he's been at last year. Obviously was injured for a time, but laid it all out. Samberg spoke after the game and obviously disappointed with the result of the game, but did talk about what he liked about his team's performance.
Well, when you put up 40 shots in a game, it's you're looking to get more than one goal, and obviously their goalie played a heck of a game. But I thought we had another great start to the first period there, and that's kind of the goal that we're trying to get to.
How does an athlete balance trusting the process when you do outshoot a team like that with the frustration of losing, and at the same time?
Well, just trusting each other and trusting our systems, and the guys around you. You just keep saying to yourself, I can only get so many bad bounces for so long, and at some point it's got to flip, and that's our belief. And if we keep playing like that, we're gonna end up turning them into some wins. So hopefully we can do that moving forward.
Was the game plan to get
go to
offense
Lowry
from the blue line
7 after
like a lot
this?
of plays went through you guys?
Well, when our forwards are getting back, and it allows our D to jump, and that's what they're doing, and that's part of our game plan. And we want to come up with 4-man attacks and get as much offense as we possibly can, but create it from our defense.
All right, so Dylan Samberg, strong game last night from he and his partner Neil Pionk. Adam Lowry was the lone Jet to actually beat Calvin Pickard in a bit of a homecoming for him. Here's what the captain had to say about the tough loss last night.
Yeah, I thought we played really well. Obviously, there's no moral victories, and I think we play that style of hockey. We play that consistent effort throughout 60 minutes. We're going to get more positive results than what we got here tonight. So that's what you can take from this game, but now we've got to take it on the road. I think our 2 games coming out of Christmas, obviously we haven't gotten the result, but I think as a whole, the process is right. The way it looks is a lot closer to what we envision our team to look like. So take that and try and put in another good effort like this, and hopefully we get rewarded with a positive result in Detroit.
I feel like a broken record, some nice saying these things.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't. I think, we stood here after some losses where, we haven't been happy with the effort, we haven't been happy with the execution, we haven't been happy with whatever else you want to name. But, I think looking at, the last 2 games and, the overall body of work, obviously, both teams are going to get chances, both teams are going to have swings of momentum, but playing against 2 highly offensive teams, some real dangerous players, I thought we did a really good job of limiting their chances 5-on-5. But, I thought we created a lot of chances 5-on-5. And like I said, we take the effort, the style, those things into the next game, and that's all you can do. The results are going to, follow if we can continue with efforts like those.
Now, the captain was also asked what the coach was. How do you balance the appreciation for the way you played and the process has been referred to with the fact that you just lost and didn't get any points, and obviously you're in a pretty dire situation when it comes to what the original goal of this season was?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever fully learn. Obviously doubt creeps in. When you haven't been able to put a streak together, and you lost several in a row, it's tough to have that faith. But I think we believe in what the coaching staff is saying. We believe in this group that when we're all playing the right way when, everyone in this room is going, we're a good team. We can't just rely on one or two guys. We need contributions, from everyone. And, I think the last two games, it's looked a lot more like that.
Now, secondary scoring has been basically non-existent for the Jets. There's been a lot of guys that have gone a while without bulging the net. Lowry was able to get on the board last night and talked about being able to, at least in his case individually, get on the board and provide some of that secondary scoring that's been missing.
I think the last two games, I felt like our lines really played with purpose, trying to limit, whether it was McDavid's line or Kaprizov or, kind of whatever variation they had going in mini. I thought that we did a good job of, staying above their speed, limiting his chances through the neutral zone and then transitioning the puck quick and, creating stuff off the forecheck, being heavy, getting around nets and, putting pucks to the paint. Barry had some real great looks and, he's been really creating, and Pierce has, really fit in well on this line as well.
All right, so there's the captain. We'll chop it up with Brandon, talk about the game as well as the upcoming road trip, and get his thoughts on Mark Scheifele and whether he will be on or off Team Canada when it is announced tomorrow. Folks, it is cold outside as we head into the new year, but it is warm and hot at Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a chance to go over there with some pals over the holidays, and man, did we have a blast. Especially during the wintertime where you're looking for great fun activities and maybe want to stay out of the bitter cold. Uptown Alley's there for you with the most in fun for kids of all ages. 10-pin bowling, 5-pin bowling, an incredible arcade, great games where you win tickets for prizes, and amazing food. All waiting for you at Uptown Alley. Great spot for birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults, and an awesome spot for corporate and group outings. Check it out for yourself at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Great deal after 9 p.m. every day, the Bowl and Play special. You can find out more at uptownalley.ca to make reservations or to plan a group event over at Uptown Alley. As we dive into 2026, many of you might be making moves. And if those moves involve moving homes, lean on our friends at Rolly's Transfer for the best in moving and service. From the experts, family-owned and operated, that have been doing it for over 60 years here in Manitoba. Check out their site at rollys.com for all of their services. And if you are planning on moving, click on that request an estimate button. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're moving, what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they have been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, Rolly's Transfer is there for you, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more online at rollys.com. Big Happy New Year from our friends and to our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. As you head into 2026, if you're looking for a dental team to take care of you and your family, taking care of clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. St. Vital Dental Center has been doing it for generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans and can do it for you as well. Beautiful new facility they've got at 167 St. Anne's with convenient free parking in the background, right in the behind the building. And of course, everything that you need to take care of that smile and keep it looking great for the entire year. For more information or to book an appointment, go to stvitaldental.ca. And hey, as we ring in the new year and head into 2026, many of you be popping by your local Manitoba liquor marts. Keep your eyes out for Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, and while supplies last, the limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale. I've had amazing feedback on this. I thought it was phenomenal. And you can pick it up in 4-packs at your local Manitoba liquor marts, or you can grab it in 473 milliliter cans the next time you're at your local beer vendor. So you want to spice it up with sort of a festive holiday drink as we get into 2026? Head on down to your Manitoba Liquor Mart or beer store and grab Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale. while supplies last, as it is a limited edition launch for the holidays. All right, Ken Wiebe's going to join us coming up a little bit later on. But first up, let's welcome in our pal, Brandon Rewucki from Skates and Plates. Talk about last night's loss to the Edmonton Oilers, the upcoming road trip for the Winnipeg Jets, where the team sits as we approach the halfway point of the season, and of course, tomorrow's Team Canada announcement. Rue, what is going on, my friend? How are you doing? And the best of the season to you.
Yeah, best of the season to you and the crew and all the WST listeners as well. Doing good. Just finished, the 50th Show Snivel session. So, whatever.
How is what was the chaos at the Rewucki household around Christmas like?
Oh, it was a solid 12 out of 10. Like, it was, it's funny because we were doing an episode of the podcast yesterday, and I was talking about Christmas Eve as if it was like a month ago. And then I saw the calendar, I'm like, holy, it's been 5 days. My God. So that pretty much sums it up. The 24th to the 31st is like, it's basically what I call airport time. Like, how when people are in the airport, it's like, yeah, sure, it's 6:30 a.m., but I'm going to have a beer and matzo sticks. This is the equivalent of what we're living in right now.
I'm here for it. And you know what? The games in between Christmas and New Year's, especially home games, are always fun, usually packed. We've got a couple beauties. Great performances by the Jets. And nothing to show for it. Well, 1 point against the Minnesota Wild. But, man, last night's game was just a head shaker. I mean, your thoughts. This was absolutely one of the best games that this team played all year long, and we're still talking about another loss in regulation.
I know. It's weird and funny, and I guess morbidly funny.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it.
But if you just look at it from a micro sense, the game, just taking a look at that one singular game, the Jets played outstanding. They played a really good game, but you don't look at it through that microscope. Instead, it's basically just, it's like a turbocharge to complain about the season as a whole, even though they did rightfully deserve the full 2 points in regulation in that game. But I mean, it's also, in a sense, a microcosm of their whole season that they might have played their two best games of the year coming out of the break. They pick up 1 out of 4 points. And it's hard not to think that last year, this team bruises to 4 easy points in that stretch there, right? And it's kind of been like that this year, where last year, everything that could go right did go right. This year, they do have a flawed roster, no question about that. But then 95% of what could go wrong has gone wrong. And we saw that again in the game against the Oilers, where you put up 40 plus shots, you basically give up nothing the other way. And it's just a bad turnover behind your net, a power play goal, and it's curtains before you even know it.
A bad turnover. That's the most charitable way I can think you can describe that. And to have that happen in a 0-0 game where you've had a million chances, you feel like you should be up by multiple goals, and then all of a sudden it's 1-0 the other way. I mean, those are the things that can really kill a team. I'll give them credit. I was wondering whether the fragility of the situation in the team would, create just a kind of a falling off a cliff after that second goal went in. But I have to give them credit. I mean, the effort, the work that they put into that game for 60 minutes. I mean, from a Jet side of things, you feel it's a shame that they weren't rewarded for it. But listen, this is something we've been talking about all year long. This team can't score. And listen, Calvert Pickard was great. I mean, the chances they had just on the power play alone, the Oilers never got it out of the zone. Yeah. And yet nothing to show for it. But again, I mean, it does come down to secondary scoring. It was nice to see the captain get one last night. I mean, there are so many guys that are snake bit on this team. And I mean, Brandon, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. They've got one more game in 2025. They've got 4 more games before the halfway mark of the season. And this team is now 3 games under 500. I mean, we're talking about a hill to climb in the second half of the season that could legitimately be insurmountable to get even into the mix for that final playoff spot if they don't put some wins together like now, like starting in Detroit and carrying that through that 3-game road trip before coming back home.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, but this is probably their easiest stretch until the Olympics, and they have to go into the, Detroit was at one point leading the Atlantic. They're right in and around there, and then Toronto and Ottawa after that. So I mean, it's 3-0 or bust, right? Like they need to, when you're this far back in the standings, realistically, you need to put together like a 6 or a 7 game win streak, right? To truly get back into things. They do have some games in hand on Utah. It's still wild that it feels like they're 100 points out of the playoffs right now. They're only 5 points out, which I'm sure management is probably clinging on with a kung fu death grip that we can't sell just yet because we're only 5 points out. But at some point, the games and the math just is too much to ignore here. So yeah, I mean, this is 100% it. The problem though is what you said about how they played against Edmonton and really how they've played all season. The effort has always been there. Like it's weird that that's a negative, but it would be one, you'd almost feel more confident if it's like, hey, we could just batten down the hatches a little more and get in on the forecheck a little bit quicker. We can get something going. They're trying as hard as they can. They do not have the horses. That is just the cold, hard reality of the team this year. They've got 5 guys, really, that have been going since game 1. The top line, Morrissey, Hellebuck. And there's no, I think when you have 37, 38 games of data and video and all that to look through, there's just no real hope that this is going to get turned around coming up here. So we'll see if they have one last, Custer's last stand going out east here. But again, the harsh reality is the effort has been there for a long, long time now. Just I don't think we're going to see a drastic overhaul and a 6-7 game win streak coming up the pipe anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's been a few lifeless games. I mean, that prime game in Buffalo about 5 weeks ago was a disaster. The Boston game was sort of there, but I will agree with you. I mean, most nights, I mean, it's not like the team's not showing up. But last night's game, there were some real positives, I'll say about that. To me, that was hands down Dylan Samberg's best game of the season. I was just about to say, and Pionk too, and I'll tell you what, Pionk dropping the gloves with Nuge early on. Now, I'm not sure whether Nikolai Ehlers was just saying that, but he did say that if he fought Neil Pionk, it would be his first in the NHL. Like, there's some guys that you can just feel they're almost fed up with where they're at right now, and I thought that their performance showed that. But listen, you can get that from your second pairing more nights than not. Will definitely be a positive. But it again comes back to everybody not on that top line. And I mean, you could tell Arnie is at his wit's end as well, because I mean, he asked this team to go out and do exactly what they did last night. They performed the plan for 60 minutes and just couldn't score. And at a certain point, I mean, I guess the only thing you really can do is they've shifted enough deck shares. I mean, it is moving a guy in or guy out. Interestingly enough, Mangiapane was in the press box last night. I do see now, again, like every other player that signs in Edmonton, he's got a full no move. So I don't know what he's looking to do or, whether Winnipeg would even interest him. But I mean, you want to talk about a guy, an offensive player that could come in and get, I don't think that there's a spot in the league where he'd get more opportunity to play a lot and to score than right now in Edmonton. And on the Oilers side of things, because of where they're at with the cap, you might be able to get him for, whatever, a depth player, a Colin Miller, even a player maybe even from the Moose, just on a league minimum deal. And the benefit to Edmonton is to get rid of a player that doesn't seem to be fitting in, that they weren't, it's either fourth line or in the press box. And that cap space to the Oilers could be more valuable than almost anything.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that, because that was, obviously not seeing him on the ice, but it was like, why don't they give him a call, right? Even if it costs you a fifth-round pick, right? Like, I don't know what his value. It's pretty much near zero right now because he's just hasn't fit in with Edmonton. But I am very adamantly against buying just to get into the playoffs for the team this year. But if you can do it for basically a lottery ticket, why not, right? I mean, he was a target for them before the year. He'd become the third or fourth fastest forward on this team already. Like, he would just inject some much needed, hopefully, speed and desperation into the lineup. And then maybe it's a fit, right? Like, I mean, we see this all the time where some guys just fit well in different places and it doesn't work for them in others. And I would be totally fine with that as an effort. And he could be a guy too that, kind of like when the Jets traded for Nino, you're allowed to re-sign guys. So maybe it's a move where it fits great for him.
He's got another year too.
Yeah.
On his deal. He actually is on a 2-year deal as opposed to some of the guys on 1-year deals. Anyways, it's interesting. We'll kind of pay attention to that and see if there's any smoke around it as his agent apparently looks for a trade partner in and around the league. Well, speaking of guys that are on the one-way deals, though, like, what do you think Gus Nyquist's thinking when he's going to bed every night and looking up in the air? I mean, I felt so bad for him on Saturday. And that, the offside, and I talked about this yesterday, and I want to go back to that game and, relitigate the whole thing. But little things like that, just coming off the attention to detail a little bit, can be so damaging when you are fragile and you need things to go your way. And I mean, I think he's played well for the last couple of games. And to be honest, going into the break, but I mean, he is and maybe he's a perfect example of the bigger picture of this Jets team this year. But it seems like it is the walking incarnation of Murphy's Law. Like, touch wood, without, big serious injuries to players for the most part. Obviously, Hellebuck was gone for a little bit. I mean, that's the only place they haven't had terrible. Luck is what you create. I mean, the bottom line is if something bad can happen, it seems like it's going to.
Yes, and you kind of get the sense too, if the Jets moved him, that he'd pot 2 goals in his first game with the new team. Like that.
First period.
If you want to look ahead, if you want to make a little bit of cash, just keep that one in the back pocket. Nyquist gets traded at any time goal scorer in the first game with his new team there. But I mean, I actually haven't disliked his game a ton. It just there's no finish, and now it's he, like so many others. Confidence is such a fickle thing in pro sport. And I really, any sport, like anybody, it doesn't have to be just at the professional level. But last year, everybody outside the top line was playing with so much confidence, right? And the pucks were just pouring in, and you get a chance and a glorious opportunity, and they were burying it. And now it's the exact opposite this year, where it feels like you're playing on a mini net, right? Like there's just no room for any of these guys that are trying to just like mercifully bang one home. And so that he's really the main epitome of that. I mean, his game at this point too is really about playmaking. So it kind of compounds the problem that he's not with a finisher on his line. And so like he's not scoring. And when he gets the puck in the dangerous areas, nobody else is scoring. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And you get what we have through a half of the season here. So that was a Shakespearean cruel bit of irony that he was finally able to get on the score sheet. And I'm surprised, you fight John Hines at that point for challenging the offside. Like it's so absurd that all you could do is really laugh about it.
Brandon Rewucki is with us. Check out Skates and Plates wherever you get your favorite pods. Obviously, these next 3 games, incredibly crucial for Winnipeg. I mean, they have to get points and come back. And I would suggest start off that homestand against the Vegas Golden Knights well, because following that, you got 1 day off, back-to-back games at home with Edmonton and LA. I think Detroit's in after that. Like, when you look at the schedule, it's great to be at home. Not that the record's been particularly great at home or on the road this year, but I'll say this. I think the way that they've competed and played in these last couple games can give them confidence that they can go toe-to-toe with anyone. It's just a matter about getting some damn results.
Yeah. We were talking before, like moral victories do not exist anymore.
No.
It's just victories. And especially like if you're in the mindset of wanting to see playoff hockey, it's almost like just find a way through these next 3, right? Like do one or the other is kind of where I'm at. Like if you want to try to make a playoff push, just get it done now so we don't waste our time. And if you fall out, let's, maybe the bottom drops out completely.
The only thing that can salvage this season is a significant winning streak. And listen, I think that it needs to start tomorrow, but really this month of January. I mean, like when the Jets play their final game, WST game against the Habs on the 4th of February and then go into that Olympic break, if they haven't made up a significant amount of ground, I mean, obviously, you got to get back to 500, which is a 3-game winning streak, and then stack some more on top of that. I mean, at that point, like, I know there's some people that just want to pull the plug on the entire season right now. I mean, that I don't think is going to happen. I mean, there's still, crazy as it is, there's still somewhat in it. There's no one running away with that final playoff spot. And it is such a 180 departure from what the intentions were at the beginning of the year. You really need to clearly know that it's over before the direction of the organization, namely the general manager, takes it. But there is a very short, like, there's not a lot of sand in this hourglass left for this team to do what they need to do to stay on that track. And otherwise, then all the other conversations about, okay, well, if you're not a playoff team, then what's the best course moving forward? You have to go to plan B, which wasn't even on the table when they kicked off in October.
Yeah. I mean, nobody really anticipated it, right? It was there was always going to be a drop off, obviously, from a President's Trophy, but it was right 100 points, like 98 points. See, that seems like it's a 20-point drop, which is still significant, but it's like, yeah, that's fair to where it is now, where like they're going to be lucky to break 90 this year. It is almost unprecedented if the Rangers didn't do it a couple of seasons ago. But they're what, like you said, I think 3-4 games away from officially entering that territory here. So it is officially go time. I mean, I don't know how many games officially there are in January, but I mean, 10 wins in the month of January is the absolute minimum. Can they do it? It might take a Hellebucky and MVP level for them to get it done. I mean, I do get this part from like Jets management perspective, in that, like, as far as building a team and as far as your players performing, they have done the hard part. Like, their top line's one of the best. They've got a top 5 defenseman and the best goalie on the planet. It's just like, for the love of God, some depth. Just to step up just for a little bit. Now, complacency, like, maybe you could do something to amplify that. Like, I totally get that argument. But I'm just saying, I do understand not punting the season 37 games in, because like, that's ultimately what winning teams do in the playoffs, is their elite guys step up. They've done that so far. They need, you always just need like a puck off the acid in, like if you're going to go on a run, a bit of luck could go a long way to getting this snowball rolling down the hill. So we'll see if it happens here. But even if they don't sell in January, Huss, I do think we'll get our answer on this team early January at the absolute latest.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And just to put it into perspective, there's 45 games left in the regular season. They do have more games to play than everybody else in the Central, and pretty much everyone else in the Pacific, minus Vegas and the Kraken. 45 games remaining. Just to get to 90 points, they need to be 11 games above 500, like 11 more wins than regulation losses. That's a pretty good clip. And like, for a season, never mind basically half a season plus 4 games. So the rubber's hitting the road right now. We'll see what happens on this road trip. But hey, before we go, I've got to get your thoughts on the big announcement tomorrow. How are you feeling about Mark Scheifele's chances of being a member of Team Canada at the Olympics?
Coin flip. This is probably the best. Like, I don't know. It's tough to get a read on them. I'm not like, you look at TSN's Team Canada that Craig Button and Mike Johnson put together. They actually had Scheifele up on the top line on the right wing. I think
taken over. He was originally, I think, an extra, and then with the injury to Bedard, they have moved. Like, how cool would that be if it was McKinnon with Crosby and Scheifele on the top line?
Well, and I really do think Scheifele's versatility gets underrated in that. I mean, I don't know if the management group for Canada like legitimately looks at him as a center wing hybrid, but like, I think he can be a really, really impressive force out there on the wing, and I think he can do it on one of the top 2 lines. I mean, people forget too, he played wing either on the number 1 line or it was the second line for Team North America.
Yes.
And he was fantastic there. Like, I mean, think of all the elite level of talent in that team, and he was right, like, step for step with all those guys. I think, his game is very transferable to how the top guys like to play, like the McDavids and the McKinnons. I think specifically with McKinnon too, like he would be I think there's some junkyard dog in him. Like if he was asked to kind of fill, what Hyman's done in Edmonton for a long time, and maybe that's a guy they look at as far as the Kim. I don't know, but I think he can get in the corners, fish out the puck. He plays a simple offensive game in the sense of like looking to cycle, not looking to go and kill you on the rush, right? So I think his game can mesh well with a lot of the top guys there. But the problem, like, there's just so many freaking high-end forwards here. Like, Seth Jarvis got the injury too. So, like, how long is he out and things like that? But Jarvis has had a great year. I do think for me, Konechny and Cirelli are the two easy removals from the World Cup team. I think you take one of Sam Bennett and Tom Wilson. I don't think there's room for both of them on this roster. Bedard, it just sucked. For me, he was on the team, no doubt about it. There's just so much uncertainty now. It might come down to how healthy Bedard is for Scheifele to get in, but I think you find a way to get him on the team. Like I think Scheifele, Suzuki are and Wilson are the three must-have newcomers that Team Canada's got to put in there. And even if he does end up as an extra forward to begin the tournament, that's a hell of a wild card to put in, man. Like a guy that can play center or the wing and is one of the 10 best point producers in the NHL. I wouldn't have to think too hard about squeezing Scheifele onto the roster, but we know that Team Canada at these tournaments, they like to get a little cute with it sometimes. And I wonder if having Bennett and Wilson on the team and potentially Bedard as an extra could push Scheifele out, which I think would be unwarranted.
Yeah, the Bennett-Wilson conversation is interesting. I mean, I think Tom Wilson has done enough to be on this team. I mean, like it's not like he's just a big physical dude that doesn't score. I mean, he's had a monster season. There's so many guys, I think, that have really raised their level knowing what the stakes have been. Mark Scheifele is certainly at the top of that class. I mean, and has been the entire season. It would be... I feel terrible for him. Like, I think this has been a real, especially considering the guys that he plays with, Hellebuck, Connor, Morrissey, knowing that those guys were locks for it.
Yeah.
He's done everything that I think you could expect from a player to do and more to make the team. And if he's not there, it certainly won't be because he left anything out there. But, in a disappointing season already, I really do worry about just, what that would do mentally to a guy that realized, let's face it, this is the chance. 4 years from now, it's going to be an entirely different world. He'll be at a different stage in his career. So, like, the stakes are incredibly high for him in particular over the course of these next 24 hours to find out.
Well, and the state of the team, potentially, like, they could be out of the playoffs realistically in a couple weeks. Like, there's a scenario where it can go a 180 really quickly here. So I'm totally on the same page there. I just think he deserves it. Like, he's one of the 14 best Canadian forwards right now. To me, it's that simple. I know I understand. I do kind of laugh. You can pick an all-star team when it comes to creating these rosters. Well, you kind of can. Like, I don't know. Maybe you can. Like, Nick Suzuki is going to be this team's fourth line center. That sounds like an all-star team to me. Tom Wilson as your 12th winger. He's like you said, he's not a moose from Riverdale. You know what I mean? Like he's a hell of a player in his own right. He kills penalties. Like he'd be Canada's top penalty killing winger on top of it too. So I think there's a spot for him, and not just as an extra. I think there's a spot for him to be a big time player.
Hey, just before we go, the question that we've been talking about for years has been who the hell's going to be in net. Craig and MJ have Logan Thompson, Darcy Kemper, and Mackenzie Blackwood. Three entirely new goaltenders from the Four Nations last year. I think a lot of people have just assumed that because Benner had the monster game when it really counted, that he'll be there. He's been horrible this year. Montembeault, not even in the conversation.
Not better.
Aiden Hill's been hurt. But Binnington in particular, do you think they'll actually leave him off the team, or will they bring two other guys and Binner will be there and sort of in case of emergency break glass and see if he can go out and play some hero ball again?
Well, it would be an interesting conversation because Doug Armstrong, obviously, like the GM of the team, but are you bringing Joel Hofer then? Because guess what? Joel Hofer started over Jordan Binnington. So if you're not bringing Hofer, how the hell are we bringing Jordan Binnington to the equation? He's had basically 40 games to prove that I'm worthy of the level of play is nowhere near it right now. I think he's going to get one of the 3 spots. To me, he's not even in the discussion. Like you said, he's just so far off it right now that great, you can play in the big game. Can you get to the big game if he's to me, I totally agree with their line of thinking. I will be shocked if he does not end up on the team. For me, it's really easy actually that Logan Thompson's your 1, Mackenzie Blackwood's your 2. That should be how the goaltending goes here. The problem too is if you bring Binnington, is it also too much of a sideshow if he's not your starting goal? I don't know if I like the whole, that would be the entire conversation around the team.
No, it's a good point. And it would be unconscionable to have him start over either of any of the 3 guys that are on this list. I'll throw Kemper in there as well.
Yeah, obviously as a Flyers fan, I love Travis Konechny. To just bring Konechny because he was on the team last time would be there's so many guys have outplayed him at this point. So I don't like the off the ice stuff potentially permeating the room and becoming a constant talking point, especially when you get into these situations here. You need everybody locked in and ready to go. And I just think he's been so heavily outplayed by the 3 goalies that were listed on Button and Johnson's team that I almost wondered, would you be a little embarrassed if you're Binnington that you got picked? It's come on, I don't have my game right now.
Yeah, you bring up a great point though with Doug Armstrong being the GM of the St. Louis Blues. I mean, that's not just leaving a guy off that has done a bunch of things for Team Canada. I mean, when the tournament's over, you got to go back and expect this guy to go out and win you games, even if he is the backup right now behind Joel Hofer. Rue, great stuff as always. Have a very happy New Year. Enjoy the roads games coming up, and we'll look forward to catching up next week when the Jets get back home for a lot of home cooking in the month of January.
Sounds great. Have a great one, boys. Have a great New Year, and let's hope 2026 gets off to a nice start for us.
Amen to that, pal. Have a good one. Great stuff with Brandon. Hey, want to give a big happy New Year and thanks to our friends at Princess Auto as we head into 2026. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of WST and so much in our sporting community through the year and again into 2026. Synonymous with Winnipeg in a lot of ways. Headquartered and founded right here, now serving Canadians coast to coast with 3 locations in Manitoba to serve you, 2 in the Peg, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new in 2026 is waiting for you at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store today or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Speaking of 2026, as we get into the new year, of course, January and February is all about getting outside and making the most of the Manitoba winter. And Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba's premier power sports superstore for over 80 years, is here to help you kick off 2026 in style. Chud's, of course, has the best in everything for the outdoors, whether we're talking ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles with the best in Polaris and Arctic Cat, or ice houses for the upcoming ice fishing season, not to mention crazy vehicles like Argos and Sasquatch. And as things warm up, dirt bikes, street bikes, tractors, boats, and so much more. With the best and most experienced staff in the business as part of the Chud's family, get down to Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231. Say hi to Derminator and the gang at Chud's and get ready to make the most of the Winnipeg winter today. Go and check them out online as well at chudspowersports.com. They've got all sorts of great deals on clearance items, featured items as well. And check out truenorthparts.com as well for the best in parts as well as gear and accessories priced to clear with amazing deals that you won't find anywhere else. Big Happy New Year to our friends at Chuds. Let's kick off 2026 in style. And hey, as much as we're going to be needing batteries for those sleds, you also need to get from point A to point B when it could get really cold. And that is why Manitoba Battery encourages you to pop in for a free battery test if you're not sure how your battery's going to do when the deep freeze comes. Of course, Manitoba Battery is your local battery option with the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. They've also got great deals on things like the ice fishing, flasher combo, booster cables, and power sports batteries as well. For all your battery needs, keep it local and get the best price in town. Save money at Manitoba Battery, 2 Winnipeg locations, and online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's bring in our pal Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. And Weber, got to tell you, love the way the team's played coming out of the break. But, man, same old story for the club when it comes to the standings. Still stuck on 15 wins after a regulation loss last night that I think most that observed the game would feel they deserved a better fate, but they didn't get it. And as Scott Arniel said, this is about getting points and getting wins right now. And the situation just gets more dire.
Yeah, Huss, great to be with you. Almost Happy New Year to you and yours. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, under other circumstances, we would be just coming onto the program and saying how you just witnessed 6 of the most impressive periods from the Jets in terms of style of play, in terms of defending, in terms of structure. But you're talking about one of a possible 4 points going into the piggy bank at a time where 4 are required, right? So based on the situation they've put themselves in, and again, if this was in the first quarter of the season, you would expect that with efforts like that stacked over a 10-game period, the Jets are probably winning 7 or 8 of those games, maybe more, and getting points in others. But when you've gone through a scenario where you have 6 wins in 25 games, it's harder to peer through the darkness, Huss, basically, was a way that I would put it. I mean, I would say that the Jets are, but for the folks saying that it doesn't matter at all, well, that's also not true. I mean, if the Jets do play that way, but there's not a long enough runway of games where the Jets have been able to stack 10 games in a row like that, Huss. I mean, that's why they are where they are. That's why they're tied for 31st. I mean, their inability to play that template and gold standard game 25 or 30 times out of 37 is the reason why we're wondering when they're going to maybe go on a run. I mean, there are pieces that look like they're ready to maybe put together a win streak, but there's also the evidence that for the last 2 months, they've been the worst team in the NHL in terms of getting standings points, and their inconsistency and their inability to get to this game, Huss, this standard and template game, enough times before game 37 is the reason why, they're much closer to the basement and, technically in the basement at 31st to 32nd with the Chicago Blackhawks, even though their points percentage is higher, than we expected them to be. And, the fact of the matter is the runway is getting narrower and the challenge is becoming steeper in terms of the uphill climb.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 games until the midway point of the season. The team's 3 games under 500 right now. I mean, even to get to 90 points, which I'm not sure is going to be good enough for a playoff spot.
I think it is this year, Huss.
Well, I mean, right now, but I mean, that's counting on all these teams just basically being really mid. I mean, that's all it takes is one team to, really go on a run in the second half of the season, and then we'll be Buffalo, back to the normal spot. Like normally 95, like last year 96 didn't get Calgary in.
No, for sure, but it just the way it's tracking, and then when an Olympic year stacked games, I think they're going to see more. I'm not saying regression to the mean, and I mean, Huss, you also could be right too. There could be more 3-point games coming out of going into the Olympic break and coming out of them. So. Yes, 95, 96 still could be possible, but to me, it feels like there haven't been as many. Like
there's 7 teams that are in, and there's a whole bunch of really mediocre teams battling for that one spot. Right. You're right. It could
Upper
be
crust
much lower.
Is definitely similar to last year. Very much, top 3 and then whatever else, or top 4 and then whatever else. But Yeah, I mean that's 7-16 is, I mean, it's mostly wide open, and there's no clear cut favorite in there for me anyway. There's a bunch of teams that have a bunch of pieces of what you'd like. You see that in a playoff team, but again, a lot can transpire in half a season. We know this. I mean, Scott O'Neill referenced it yesterday, Hassan. We know it because we saw it firsthand. I mean, not a lot of people had the Blues on their bingo card being the 8th seed, and then not just being the 8th seed, but pushing the 1 seed to the as close to the limit as humanly possible. So again, and I'm not here to say the Jets are the Blues of 2019 or 2024, 23 or 24, 25, but I just think there's a lot of story left to be told. But I mean, the issue for the Jets, Huss, is that their story has looked similar from games 13 to game 37. And even for parts of the 9-3 start, some of the issues that are still plaguing them were evident in what has become unexpectedly to many a fool's gold type of start for the Jets. We see those kind of starts from teams every year. We just didn't expect it to come from a team that had just won the President's Trophy and was the oldest team in the league. You often see it from young teams that, aren't really defending. And then by game 15 or 20, they're like, oh my God, it's hard to play that style, right? I mean, that's not what we're seeing. And the other part, we're seeing, San Jose, and kudos to them for still being right there. But I mean, Chicago's tailed off. Of course, Bedard's injury has something to do with it, but a lot of those young and up and coming teams have sort of tapered off us once they figured it out after game 20 that, man, there's still 62 games left to play at this incredibly hard style of defending. And that's happened to Utah also, even though they've been great against the Jets. There's a bunch of teams that we'll have to see how much staying power they have. But at the same time, the Jets haven't shown enough to say that they're automatically going to catch those teams. Well, that's the issue for me.
First of all, I mean, the Jets right now, to get into a playoff spot, have to pass Vancouver, St. Louis, Calgary, Nashville, Utah, the Kraken, and the San Jose Sharks. I mean, there's, you can look and saying, oh, geez, they're only 5 points out right now. They got 2 games in hand on San Jose. Well, the problem is that, there's no way you can run. These teams are going to play each other. Someone's winning hockey games here. And that's back to my point. Like, even if, and I don't actually buy it, I think it'll be higher, but let's just say it's 90. 90 points is going to get you in, which would be crazy low for a wild card spot in today's 3-point NHL. We're talking about 45 games left on the calendar.
Yeah.
And the Winnipeg Jets would have to go 11 games above 500 over the course of that spot just to get to 90 points.
Yeah, somebody dropped in our chat room last night. They essentially are, you're allowing yourself 13 losses in the remainder. And they just literally had, I think, 15 losses or 14 losses in the last 25 games. So how are you going to go, 40, what is it? 40, 45. You got 45 games left. Yeah. I mean, you have, that's going on in massive heater. Now, again, the evidence is being shown right now. Buffalo, most people had Buffalo left for dead and missing the playoffs again. And they went on a 9-game winning streak. And now, here's the thing. Buffalo's also a great example in showing that even after winning 9 in a row, you're barely, I think you're still technically below the line. They're still behind Florida, right?
They're tied with Florida,
points,
but
they're
they
below
lose
the line.
The tiebreaker.
So, that's what you're looking at, essentially. And again, the hypotheticals are tough, but it's part of the job. You got to look into the crystal ball and see what you have to do. Now, it doesn't have to be 9 in a row, but you basically got to have 3 5-game winning streaks or longer in order to get yourself back in it. And we're talking about a team that's barely won consecutive games in a 2.5 month or 2 month stretch of time. So it's a big ask,
and even when they're playing their best, like they have the last couple games, they're not getting the results.
Right.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
So we know that this was never even, when the Winnipeg Jets dropped the puck on the season from management, particularly Kevin Cheveldayoff's perspective, Scott O'Neill as well, they could have never in a million years conceived being where they are right now. They have built this team to contend this year, or had intended to. We can debate whether that certainly aren't contending right now. considering that they had never thought that they would be in this position, how long will it take, or at what point do you think this management team just says, all right, this is not our year, and makes a significant pivot from the way that they were planning on going about their business in the second half of the season? And how does that look like, Ken, in your opinion, if and when they get to that point?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would just put it this way. I mean, we've heard it referenced already by Scott O'Neill, by Adam Lowry, by other players. It's a sprint to the Olympic break right now. So I don't see the Jets waving the white flag necessarily at all, but they're certainly not punting on the season before the Olympic break. Now, Huss, part of that reason is because they got a massive homestand coming up in January. So, statistically speaking, not this year because the home record hasn't been what it was last year or many of the years. But by the end of January, they'll have a pretty good idea where they're at and how big the gap is or how much they've been able to cut into the deficit. So coming out of that last road trip where, they're going to what? They're going to Jersey, Florida, Tampa, Dallas, and then play Montreal at home. So by February 4th or 5th, whatever that time period is, they'll have a pretty good idea. And again, I'm not saying you're not going to see call-ups before that or moves, but I think they're in a sprint to the Olympic break to see where things are shaken down. I mean, some of the insiders are saying that never mind the March trade deadline, people are going to want to make preemptive strikes like what we saw a couple of years ago when the Jets went and got Monahan during the player break, right? I mean, so I think there's going to be some teams trying to jump the queue. But, Huss, I mean, here's the other part for the Jets, and we talked about this, I think, last week. I mean, this isn't a team that can afford to move its number one pick. They don't have a second and a fourth. So, I mean, could you see a veteran player or a prospect of some note being moved to try to add draft capital before February 4th? Sure. But it's not going to be January 1st, I don't think, for me. I do think Walker Dewar, guys like that in the minors, where there maybe Sam Fagamo, maybe some guys like that might get a shot at some point, but I don't see any waivers. David Gustafson's playing great hockey, Huss, probably some of the best hockey of his career. So, he's a possibility for sure. But I mean, we're in the same boat here. That means the Jets are going to have to waive or trade one of their underachieving players or someone that they, don't have a future with on a 1-year deal and maybe want to make room for Elias Salomon.
What do you think prevented them from doing that so far? I mean, there are so many guys that are underachieving. They're guys on 1-year deals. They're not tied to the organization. They weren't even here last year and a part of that President's Trophy season. Why do you think that we haven't seen even a call-up?
Yeah, I mean, I think who mentioned it yesterday? I mean, I think it was someone talking. I think Adam Lowry was talking about after the game. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are not performing, but if you look at the back of the hockey card, Huss, like we used to in the old days before we went to hockey DB or elite prospects, you look at that hockey card and say, well, this guy's going to be, Alex Iafallo's going to be a double-digit goal scorer that might get 15 to 17, or Nino Niederreiter is going to be a double-digit guy that gets you 35 some plus points. But right now, the hockey card is not matching up with what we're seeing on the ice from a bunch of those players. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff usually speaks around the midway point, Huss, and it will be brought up to him. I mean, it's a factor. I mean, we've talked about the loyalty angle, and we know about perception and reality and those things. And, the reason they brought Tanner Pearson in is because he won a Stanley Cup and was supposed to bring that championship pedigree to this group. Now, Tanner Pearson also playing on a pretty good line with Adam Lowry and Morgan Barron. So, I mean, he's upped his game without upping his offensive game. And yes, there were still a couple of penalties that, he'd like to have back probably in the last few games leading back to Utah. Gus Nyquist yesterday wasn't as noticeable, looked a little better in the games previous, but yeah, I mean, at some point, you're either going to see one of these guys moved for, I'll just use this as an example, Huss. I mean, last night the Oilers scratched Andrew Mangiapane, healthy scratch. Elliot Friedman has reported, or it's been reported somewhere. Actually, I think it was on Tommy Gazzola's thing there, with saying that the agent has been given permission to seek a trade. Well, Mangiapane was, pursued by Toronto and by Winnipeg also before signing in Edmonton. So
maybe the Jets could show some interest. Obviously, it hasn't gone as well for Mangiapane, but he has 5 goals and 11 points. That would put him ahead of many of the secondary scoring issues that the Jets are having.
The funny thing with Mangiapane is that
one more year.
Yeah, he 1 more year, full no move.
Right.
So obviously this is.
I think
not
he's open though. It sounds like, right? Elliot was talking about if there's a situation where he can be more than a 4th line player.
This
then
is
he'd
my
be up
point.
for it.
I don't think there's a landing spot in the entire National Hockey League where he could be dropped in and would get more opportunity immediately. Never mind 4th line.
Yeah.
I mean, with what else has been happening in the 2nd line,
yeah.
I mean, he would be a guy that would get plenty of runway to go and do that. Again, I don't know the player. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, if there's particular places that he wants to go or whether he'd rather stick around in Edmonton. But the thing about that is that could be a low-cost acquisition.
Right.
In really the gain for the Oilers, I was talking about this for Rewucki before, would be the cap space that they
you
would
get out of
get
the
from a
second
deal.
year for sure, right? You want to get out. If you're the Oilers, you want to get out of the second year for one. But here's the deal, Huss. So
even this year,
let's just say this, Huss. So the Jets would probably prefer to move. Maybe I'm not saying Nyquist in particular, but you want to move a similar salary. Yes, they would get out of the second year, but they'd be saving $400,000 or $300,000 or whatever the number is. But Stan Bowman's probably saying to Kevin Cheveldayoff, well, no, I want Colin Miller. I'd rather have someone making $1 million so I can get another player or something like that.
Or a 7th round pick. I mean, or future consideration.
No, for sure. I'm just saying that if they're looking at, trying to get, they would rather trade for a pending UFA or futures, Huss. You're right. But the Jets are probably saying, well, no, we'd also like to get out of this, right? I think of the Andrew Ladd trade, right? There was a bunch of things, the Jets moved out a minor league player on a one-way contract. And like, there's a bunch of other ways you can make the money make sense, even if it's not necessarily, dollar for dollar on the cap. So,
well, is that important to the Jets?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that was something in the
space.
past, right? Yeah, no, it's not a consideration for them, but maybe it's a way to, rather than waive a veteran player who you don't want to embarrass, maybe you can move a guy out and bring somebody else in and give it another spin in the middle 6. I think
you mentioned that before. I mean, is that actually an issue? Like, quote unquote, embarrassing a veteran player? I mean, this is pro sports, right? I mean, if you don't get the job done and listen, we're at the halfway point of the season. Like, I don't think anyone would blame the Winnipeg Jets for making a move on a handful of guys. I mean, not just the guys that came here in the offseason.
Sure. No, it's fair, Huss. And yes, it is pro sports, but this is something like we talked about in the summer. I mean, the Jets aren't operating the same way as Vegas or some other teams do because let's just put it out there this way. I mean, after the best year the franchise has ever had, their marquee free agent signings were Jonathan Toews, Gus Nyquist, Tanner Pearson, and Cole Koepke, none of whom have particularly been shining. So, and again, I'm not saying there weren't other options that were pursued or otherwise, but I mean, the perception is part of it because it isn't a marquee destination. But what it is that once you get these players here, you treat them in a certain regard that, word spreads around the league. That helps you get guys like Paul Stastny waiving their no move clauses previously and things like that. So again, I'm not here saying you can't be, calculated or make tough decisions. But yes, I mean, perception of the marketplace and how the organization acts is part of the reality. But the flip side of that coin is that when an organization brings in a bunch of guys as insulation, as we talked about, for a Moose team that really struggled last year and brings in a bunch of veterans that you want to have around your Colby Barlows and your Jacob Julians and your Braden Yaggers, those guys also need to feel like there's a carrot available to them in terms of, like, if I'm putting together one of my best years in the minors and the big league team is not scoring, I want to know there's an opportunity for me to at least get an audition, right? So
100%. And
there's a bunch of levers all being pulled at one time. So,
well,
I mean,
let me just say this about the perception. Like, what's the perception of a team that brings in a bunch of veterans that underwhelmed for the entire season, are doing nothing? The teams at the bottom of the standings and don't do anything.
No, sure.
Like,
and
to
again,
me, like, that's the perception of that is a lot worse than, you know what? They took a swing on these guys. It didn't work. And you know what? They didn't have any takers for them. So they put the guy on waivers. I mean, that's just how the league works.
Sure, Hutz. I mean, the other issue that the Jets are having is that it's not just the guys they brought in that are having some issues. It's guys that have been here for a long time and became part of the fabric of the team and got longer deals or extensions that are also struggling. So again, this isn't just, and I know it's not you either. Yep. It's not just the new guys that are struggling.
Candidates. There's plenty of candidates.
You know, the Lowry line is going again now, Huss, but there's still 2 lines not going. And again, this is not just newcomers. These are guys who had some big moments, and like Vlad Nemestikov and Cole Perfetti scored 2 of the biggest goals in franchise history, and one of those players now has 1 assist in 25 games. And the other guy is not playing at his level, and he's frustrated by it. And all those guys are frustrated, but there's not just a magic wand that says, hey, let's get in the hot tub time machine, Huss, back into May 1st and see what can happen. I mean, it's a challenging spot because there's a lot of guys here. And Huss, I mean, some of these guys have got deals beyond, most of them have deals beyond this year. I mean, Perfetti's a different situation. RFA needs a new contract. Again, and that's going to be convoluted now compared to, you know, the people talking about he should have been 8 times 8 and everything else. I mean, there's a bunch of different things at play. Cole's got a new agent. You know, this should have been an easy deal, and maybe it still will be, but he's got to have a big second half for a lot of reasons, including just feeling better about his game again. And again, I think that we've seen some experienced guys, and we know that it had been a tough first half for some of the guys in their, you know, mid-30s, but some of those guys came out of the break refreshed and are playing better. But at the same time, that secondary scoring is still a massive hole. I mean, Adam Lowry snapped a 17-game slump, but he's the only guy that beat Calvin Pickard, who had an unbelievable best game of the season by a landslide. And again, great for Calvin to do it in front of family and friends. But I mean, if you're the Jets, you got to be, if you put up 42 shots and many of them of high quality against a guy that's rolling with almost 4 goals against and a, you know, save percentage of .860, you're probably expecting to have more than 1 goal being scored. But again, that's the beauty of the NHL. Calvin Pickard's been around a long time. He's worked his ass off to be an NHL goalie. And even when it's not going well, sometimes you can dial everything up and the stars align, and you have the performance of your season.
Yeah, I mean, last night was, I mean, in some ways, a metaphor for the entire year.
Oh, totally,
I mean, put it this way. The team hasn't played as well as they have last night for most of the season. So that's where the difference is. But, I mean, it's Murphy's Law. I mean, Calvin Pickard, Winnipeg guy, comes back home, plays his ass off, and has his best game of the year. Jack Roslovic comes back, right. Former Jet, scores, of course. And
not just scores, GWG, Huss.
Yeah. Well,
by a second unit that historically gets 12 seconds of ice time, if they get any.
And I mean, the play of the game, like the most impactful moment of the entire game, was a goal scored by a 4th-line guy, his first of the year, off probably the worst turnover that we'll see all season long. And
right. Son of Brad Jones, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting. I did not know that. I heard you guys talking about that.
No, I did not know that. That's Darren Bombing.
Are you on the road? Are you on the road out on this trip?
I won't be in Detroit, unfortunately, to see my pal Sean Shapiro, but I will be in Toronto and Ottawa.
Excellent, excellent. Kenny, well, listen, we'll look forward to your work from the road, and along with Sean keeping us up to date after the games on KNR. Thanks so much for doing this, buddy.
My pleasure. Enjoy the World Junior. Things are starting to heat up there, it looks like.
Yeah, well, big one tomorrow for Canada against the Finns. I think they're moving up a weight class. Pretty interesting difference between how Canada handled Latvia and the Finns. So we'll get to that. Sean Shapiro is going to join us from the Twin Cities coming up in just a minute. Weber, you have a great one.
Yeah, you too, folks, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you got it. Happy New Year to you as well. No practice today for the Winnipeg Jets. They're traveling out to Detroit for that game tomorrow. So we'll have to wait till tomorrow to get to the latest on the Clean Line lines, presented by Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Your local leader for over 40 years. Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical is the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, with 24/7 emergency services for you 365 days a year. Much like Adam Lowry is the back of the Winnipeg Jets, Clean Line Plumbing has the back of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services. You can find out more on Cleanline at cleanline.ca. Shout out and Happy New Year to our friends at Boston Pizza. Looking forward to getting into the New Year's party tomorrow night. Get down to BP early, have a few 5:30 p.m. start for that Winnipeg Jet game. Of course, Jets Leafs on New Year's Eve, Jets Sens on the weekend. Boston Pizza is always your best place to catch Winnipeg Jets hockey, NFL action with the playoffs coming up. And of course, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Christmas may be past us and Boxing Day as well, but great boxing deals remain right now at Royal Sports. Talking to Greg last night, they've been doing crazy business, both in the hockey department with the great deals on sticks through the holidays, and of course snowboards as well for those of you that may be planning a trip some point in the winter once we get into the new year. Pop on down for the best in fan gear, Winnipeg Jets merchandise, NFL just in time for the playoffs, Blue Jays and Major League Baseball and more. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, Winnipeg Sports Superstore, 750 Pembina Highway, and on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg. Give them a follow for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Going to bring in Sean Shapiro, as we mentioned. First up, though, big holiday cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Let's do it.
All right, let's head down to the Twin Cities right now. Perfect day to have our pal Sean Shapiro on because, of course, he covers the Red Wings where the Jets are tomorrow. But first order of business has been what's going on down in the Twin Cities for the World Juniors. What's going on? Happy New Year to you, Sean. What's up?
Yeah, happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm. No, it's. I spent my. I got on. The Boxing Day flight up to Minneapolis out of Detroit and spent the first. I was out here for. I caught part of one last game earlier today, but watched basically as many of the games in person over the first 3 days. And me and Cam Robinson are switching shifts. He's taken over for the second half of the run for Elite Prospects. But yeah, it's been fun. I think I've been at each Canada game so far, so it's been fun to watch the. Consternation in person where all that's going.
hey, just before we get to what's going on the ice, what have the crowds been like, and what's been the kind of the talk about attendance and just how this event is being supported?
Attendance has been rough. It's there's obviously probably some socio political issues for a lack of Canadian attendance that's come through, and I know it's been reported out there that there's the Minnesota organizers were expecting part of the pitch of this location in the U.S. was also part of the ability to get more of a Canadian audience. I think this is just my thought on it. The games at Rewucki, which is the group Canada's in, and that building, that's a college building, holds about 6,000. It's the right size, right? Like you get I think it's 8,000. You get 5,000 people in an 8,000 person building. It still feels like there's a good amount of people there. I don't know when you go to the NHL building in the United States like they have for group games at a minimum, and then we'll see what happens in the final. It's like it just feels like a ghost town in the X or the Grand Arena, whatever we call it now. It just feels like a ghost town because it's. Even if you get 6,000 people in there, it's a third empty. And the other thing they're doing that's just, and I know everyone told me this is an IIHF thing, so I don't know who to blame, but it's the whole, like I have a friend who lives in this area, came in for one game for the U.S. game. And then there was the Germany-Sweden game the same time, but it's a split session ticket. And so he's like, I'm going to come and stick around. Of course, I bought the ticket for them, but who's going to buy an individual ticket? And this is all due respect to those countries. Who's going to buy an individual ticket to Germany, Sweden? Like, why don't you just have a a dual, like a session pass, more people would stick around for both games, maybe buy more beers. I don't. It feels like. And then the last one for me is I had 3 different Uber drivers in my time here who had no idea what I was in town for when I mentioned it, which it's not always the greatest sense for a kind of a piece of what the pulse of the city. But I often use, like, if I landed in Winnipeg and I get in a cab or whatever, person's not going to know if someone's in town for hockey. So
yeah, no, I mean, we just had the Grey Cup here, and that was like that. It has been. I mean, I know they've done this event in Grand Forks, which was very easy for people in southern Manitoba, and obviously in Buffalo, getting the Canadians to head across the border, and then with everything else going on, not to mention the dollar and the economy and all that. I mean, there's a lot of factors going in. As far as the action on the ice, you mentioned you've seen the Canadian games. The Canada-Czechia game was awesome. I mean, that was a really fun game. They barely squeaked by the Latvians. And then you see what Finland did to Latvia. I'm not sure whether people's expectations were too high of this Canadian team or they're just sort of hitting their groove. But you mentioned that consternation. I mean, what have you been hearing around the Canadian circles about what we've seen so far through 3 games heading into the New Year's battle with Finland?
Yeah, and on top of that, right, like it's the games have been close. There's been the kind of, I don't know, and then you add in always fun, ridiculous usage of a 13th forward, no matter who it is. And for like Liam Greentree for a couple games where you're going to dress a kid and he knows he's the 13th forward, but you play him one shift for 22 seconds, which is just, that's even more cruel than not playing him at all almost. Like, and I think on top of all of that is like people have had there's been the Carter George, like nothing adds to drama like a goaltending, right? Like, or goaltending issues. And Carter George has been at a Czech game. The save percentage didn't look good. Probably let up a rough one against again in the blowout win against the Netherlands. The Danes, Denmark. Sorry, not the Netherlands at World Junior. That would be a story. Against Denmark, and then it's like then there's also the part of the team just seems to be a little bit other on ice, off ice, where captain's taking bad penalties. They're getting warned for not shaking hands. Like it just feels disorganized right now.
What was the story with them showing up 5 minutes late for the warm-up?
They've been doing that, and so I was informed of this by my pal Chris Peters, who covers Flow Hockey and has been covering the World Juniors here in person for longer than I have, and he told me that it's apparently Canadian team does it because a major junior warm-up is 15 minutes, not 20 minutes like it is for the IHF. So while the other team will, every Canada game, the first 5 minutes of warm-ups is the other team by themselves. And then at the 15-minute mark, Canada comes onto the ice because to match what happens for major junior warm-ups. It's just kind of, it's like I put a picture of it out there on Twitter the other day. It's just like reminds me of like those beer league games where like one team clearly got the memo and then the other team's got like one guy. It's like they show, but it's their schedule and their choice. We were actually when I walked into the building before the first Canada game. I was waiting to catch the elevator at Rewucki Arena, and you could hear on the walkie-talkies. You could hear on the walkie-talkies from the back end people being like, "Where's Canada?" And then someone just finally yelled, "They're doing their own thing. Let it go."
If you're with us on YouTube, you can see this picture where one team is out there practicing, and then the other the other side of the ice is just wide open, waiting for different. No one will care if they win, but then there'll be all sorts of questions if they don't. Big game for Canada tomorrow against the Finns, and then of course you got Sweden and the United States. We've been paying close attention to the Swedes because a couple of the Jets' top prospects are playing there. What have been the what's the word around Team USA through their first 3?
Yeah, obviously the big, scary good news is that Hudson's okay, right? Like that the fact that they haven't ruled him out for the whole tournament, and so that's been good. USA team it's funny because I think if we get a USA Canada matchup, it's going to be highly entertaining because they've both had some of the problems. USA's had some of the problems where they have the I'm not sure how well they can keep the puck out of that and how well they actually move the puck from the back end. And then you add in the fact that the goaltending this year is a severe downgrade from what Trey Augustine was the past couple of years. And so they kind of lost a little bit of that safety blanket. So, like, yes, the game they played yesterday against Slovakia where they win 6-4, highly entertaining game, but also showed a lot of, and sometimes you can just call it junior hockey, but showed a lot of the things. So, like, it's funny. I think, like, in this tournament so far, the Czech team has been really fun to watch for me because they play aggressive and they also have a little bit more. They've added a little bit more of that structure probably after game one against Canada. They've been really, really good. And then obviously they had the great back. They had a great game with Finland, where Jirusek scored the between the legs goal for the finish in overtime. Like, that's so. But like USA and Canada both have similar problems where is the goaltending good enough? Are they going to discipline, whether that means more penalty amount-wise Canada and more discipline when it comes to space in the United States? Both have similar problems. So if they play, it could be a really fun and really horrible for both coaches.
I think the best outcome for the tournament would be to have those teams go at it in the gold medal game. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The teams will be ranked 1 to 5, and the top 4 move on to the quarterfinals. Is it as simple as 1 versus 4 in each pool, 2 versus 3?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we know. So, for example, we already know the locations for some of the teams that are locked into their spot. Like, we know Sweden and USA are going to finish 1 and 2 in that group, so they already locked in those 2. And then we know Canada is locked into. We know Canada will play the quarterfinal game at Rewucki. So yeah, so they'll get they're going to get, so from a Canada perspective, if they win against Finland on New Year's Eve and they get first, you're looking at it's probably a Slovakia that you're probably getting. A Slovakia is probably who you're getting in that quarterfinal game.
Yeah, of course. There's if they're first, it could be the Swiss. I guess the Swiss are 4 for Canada. But essentially, if Canada and USA are 1-1, like both first, they wouldn't meet until the final. But if one of them is first and one of them finishes second, they actually would be playing in a semifinal, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yes, that is the setup, and that's how it would work.
Well, hopefully, I mean, both these teams, you got Sweden in the States tomorrow early, and then 7:30 our time, or after that game, it'll be Canada, Finland. And I think the best outcome would be, let's have Canada and the USA, the top 2 teams going into the tournament, win, and then would set up the potential of a great, great gold medal final. We're all on pins and needles here, waiting for Team Canada for the Olympics. I know that'll be a big focus tomorrow. What is the big discussion around Team USA? I mean, we expect Connor Hellebuck and Kyle Connor both to be on that squad. Who are the players right now that are sort of the bubble guys that everyone's waiting to see whether they will or won't be on the team tomorrow?
Obviously, the big one, and I put this out on Twitter earlier today because I talked to a couple people within the Stars organization about various things, and I mean, the guy who's had more points and more goals than any American in this calendar year looks like he's on the outside, Jason Robertson, which is just going to be, to me, obviously something that I know well, considering my time spent covering him in Dallas and things like that. But for me, that's the story that's going to be, because you're going to have if Robertson's not on this team, and credit to Michael Russo for, I think he had a big story on this 2 weeks ago, and then my kind of reporting on this is what a bunch of people around the Stars believe is going to happen. It's turned into, because does Team USA take a JT Miller or a Vincent Trocheck over a Jason Robertson? And it's going to be, and that's going to be a fascinating conversation. I know Bill Guerin has famously said he has to build a team, not just he has to build a team. And I don't know, as someone who has watched this team USA lose by a goal in the Four Nations final with a guy you guys know has scored a lot of goals in Winnipeg, sitting in the press box. Now you're going to leave another one? Like, it's that for me is the whole Robertson thing of, like, That one I'm just still baffled by that one.
It would be it. I mean, he has been such a beast this year.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, to have him off. I mean, listen, that would seem along the lines of the decision making to play Chris Kreider and the corpse of Matthew Tkachuk in the Four Nations final, and leave a guy that is very good at scoring goals in the press box when they desperately needed some scoring in that final game in Boston. Well, needless to say, that's going to dominate all the hockey topics tomorrow. Yeah. Canada, USA, the teams that are being announced.
Canada's at least being made public tomorrow, right? Like that's the Like it's so Team USA is doing this thing where it's going to be live on the Today Show on Friday morning at 8:15 a.m. So we're going to have so here's one thing. We're not getting the official announcement until 8:15 a.m. on a live television program where they are going to fly in some players. So I guess I wait for the over-under on how far into tomorrow we make it before all the insiders have every single name out there. Like it's like all these players are going to be told, all their agents are going to be told. So we won't get an official announcement from Team USA tomorrow, but we'll all have it within 5 minutes of all the players.
No doubt. Well, as I say, that'll be the detective work on Team USA, and going over the official roster of Canada will be on the plate tomorrow. We'll also be looking forward to the Jets playing the Wings.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm looking at the standings right now, and obviously the Jets are in one right now. I mean, no secondary scoring. They lost last night where they dominated the game. Outshot Edmonton 2-1. Can't get a goal. They lose. The Jets are -7 in goal differential and are at the bottom of the league standings. The Wings are 3 goals better. They're -4, and they are 5th overall. Yeah. What's been the secret sauce in Detroit this year as to why they are where they are in the standings?
Well, I guess one quick defensive Winnipeg that I don't know if coming from me will help any of your audience, but the Central is completely brutal, right? You can be. I think from the Wings' perspective, it's twofold. One, I think first full season for Todd McClellan. I remember he took the job on Boxing Day last year, so he's literally been on the job for 368 days or whatever it is today right now. And so I think there's been built in some more of the mentality in this team when he took over a year ago. There's been some more of the structure, combination of structure and creativity that I don't think they really had, both kind of thematically and approach-wise. So I think that's changed. The other thing, and this is just the big one for me on the ice, is Dylan Larkin. I think for so long this team in Detroit just believed, you know what, Dylan Larkin's going to drag us there. And it was one, you would see, if you go and look up the Wings record without Larkin in the line the past couple of years, it's horrendous. 2 years ago when they were season ago when they were, it actually happened both the last 2 seasons, where Larkin was out for injury and at one point for a personal matter for a family reason. The Wings just tanked without him, and they were just rudderless, and they didn't have anything with him. And I think they were relying. And so this year, though, both their play on the ice and what you've seen inside that group is Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider have emerged as have realized that we drive this team, and not only just drive the team on the ice, because that's something I think a little bit easier to embrace first, but they made them both full-time alternate captains. They took away the A's from some of the older guys. Andrew Kopp doesn't wear a letter on this team. Neither Ben Sherratt used to wear an A on this team. Those guys don't wear letters on this team. They gave that responsibility to Raymond and Seider, and I think they've really responded to that with the mentality. And Seider has, now the other defensemen are around Seider a little better now, so it's been a little bit easier, but Seider and Raymond, and those guys in particular, have just really risen the level for this entire team where it doesn't fall off a great night. And I think it's also allowed Larkin to play a little bit freer and a little bit more, loose and less kind of with all the weight of the world. So I think that's an underrated part of this team, and just what we see what a coach does or the style of play and everything like that.
Hey, I've got to ask you mentioned Andrew Kopp, but how's Mason Appleton fitting in his new home?
He's been good. He's been kind of the Wings have it's with Todd McClellan. Kind of, I've learned now, having covered him for about a year in Detroit. He's got there's a couple guys that you like that are going to that Todd is willing to basically have fill in that role when he has. Like Mason Appleton does a lot in this lineup because they have one forward in their lineup, Patrick Kane, who doesn't do anything defensively, and and Mason is a guy who's coming, but also adds a little bit more. I don't know, can be that sparkle at the same time. So he's been a good fit actually, and dealt with the injury for a little bit, but he's been good here or there. I still haven't landed there yet. I'm still in the Minneapolis airport.
Oh, don't. Well, listen, we'll let you get to it. Just fill people in, obviously, on what you guys have at Elite Prospects. I mean, obviously, it's always a go-to site for us. But, I mean, as you hand the baton over to Cam, what can people look forward to over the course of the next week?
Yeah, we got a couple features up there right now from a written perspective. Cam's going to show up. Cam's doing a little bit more of the social, some of the video stuff and everything like that. And one of the cool things that I think, I can always talk about the writing and the website and the stats, but I think one of the cool things that I don't think people know about as much in Elite Prospects is we have our updating pool of prospect reports from individual games for uploading all the time. Mitch Brown does a wonderful job with editing and running all of those. And so if you're watching a game and everything like that and you're curious about a guy, click to it. There's a pretty good chance we have a bunch of individual game reports under their profile that you can go see. And I think that's a cool thing about the Elite Prospect stuff that no one else really knows about, because you can kind of track everyone sees the scouting reports that come out when our draft guide does, but you can see them all year round. And I think that's kind of a cool thing I should give a shout to.
No, it is an awesome site, and folks can get out there for the latest on the World Juniors. The fellas are all over it. Sean, safe travels. Happy New Year. Enjoy the game, and we got the Wings coming here in a week or two. Maybe we'll catch up into the new year and see how things go between these two squads. But always appreciate you jumping on with us.
Always do appreciate it. And I got to give, I heard Kenny was on before you hopped on. I'll have to give him some, I'll have to give it to him next time, because he did the baseball executive thing to my last name again. So he gave me the Shapiro. So I'll have to give it to Kenny next time I see him.
Good stuff, Sean. Thanks so much for doing this.
Always.
There's Sean Shapiro. You can follow him on X at Sean Shapiro and check out his work on the World Juniors, along with our buddy Cam Robertson over at EliteProspects.com. All right, let's get Reem back in here. You know, we've been talking about these. We'll get to the cool bet lines before. I had a nice winner again last night. Things have been going well ever since that dark weekend 2 weeks ago of the 0-5 and the Mahomes MCL injury. But we will get to that. But Remo, you know, I know you flashed that up a little earlier today with when I was talking with Brandon. But for folks that missed it, let's fire up this Team Canada list. This is the Craig Button, Mike Johnson TSN list. This is their team. This is not necessarily who they expect to be named, but these are the guys that are on their roster. And of course, the person that we're looking for is Mark Scheifele. Scheifele is on their roster. And with the injury to Connor Bedard, they actually have him riding shotgun with Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby on line number 1. Celebrini, McDavid, Reinhart, Hagel, Suzuki, Mitch Marner, Marchand, Bo Horvat, Tom Wilson, and then Braden Point, who's really struggled this year and was one of the original named players to the team, and Sam Bennett, the other forwards. Defense, it is basically the guys that were on the Four Nations team. No Thomas Harley on this one, but the original 7 of Taves Makar, Josh Morrissey, Shea Theodore, Sanheim Parayko, Drew Doughty, and 18-year-old phenom Matthew Schaefer. And then the goaltenders, Blackwood, Kemper, Thompson, none of the Four Nations goalies on the roster. What did you think when you saw this, Reem?
Yeah, well, they had Scheifele, their top line right wing. And this is what Mike Johnson and Craig Button have. This isn't what they're projecting. And, I mean, I guess I was encouraged that, hey, if they had them on, maybe they know something. But, you know, I saw in 32 Thoughts, you know, they're going through the team, and Elliott didn't even really mention Scheifele at all. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Matthew Schaefer, does he get on? Is there room for Suzuki and Scheifele? We didn't really mention there was that leak yesterday, from Fanatics online store that had Team Canada merchandise featuring Nick Suzuki and Mitch Marner. So they know that they're on the team. We'll know tomorrow morning, 10:30. We'll all be glued into it. We'll be able to debate it. I really would like to see from Mark Scheifele to get on. Like, what more could he possibly do?
I'll be sick for Scheifele if he doesn't make this team.
This
is his chance. I mean, 4 years from now, I mean, if he's not on it this year, that's pretty much it. Now, maybe there's a World Cup down the road or what they're doing that maybe he gets an opportunity. But as far as playing for the Olympics, and this is why I really feel bad for guys like him. Like, they lost 10 years of the prime of their career with the teams not going to the Olympics, stupid, COVID, all that BS. And now this is his chance. And the guy has simply played his ass off all season long. But again, there's a lot that goes into these decisions. But I mean, for what you want Mark Scheifele on your team to do, he's a top 10 scorer in the league, has consistently put up those numbers. And I'm sort of with Ken. Or maybe it was Brandon actually that said it. I think it's sort of underestimated what he could do as a winger or playing maybe a different role than he normally does on the Winnipeg Jets. But that, I mean, let's face it, that is going to be the name that we're all looking for tomorrow. What did the Daily Faceoff guys have?
Yeah, Stephen Ellis and Matt Larkin put together a team. And first, I'll just say, Mark Scheifele, among Canadian point scorers this season, he's fifth behind McDavid, McKinnon, Celebrini, and Wyatt Johnston. Like, if you can't find room for the fifth leading scorer of your country, I mean...
Although the funny thing is, Wyatt Johnston isn't on a lot of those lists either.
He's not on any of them. And so, I know Bedard would probably be ahead if he wasn't hurt. And Reinhardt's already been named. Morgan Geekie's 11th on that list. He's got, you hear him as an outside name, but I think they're going to go with a majority of, the guys that were on the Four Nations. Elliott seemed to think the defense is going to be all the same. But are the forwards, does Cirelli get on? Does Konechny get back on? And Jarvis, what's his injury status? And, Bedard was a guy who you thought could be on, but now he was injured as well. Daily Faceoff was Matt Larkin and Stephen Ellis. They kicked it around. And let me bring up theirs real quick. It was, one of them didn't have Scheifele on, and I think one of them did. I have to double check this. Sorry, I can't. I'm trying to find it quickly. Who is it? Yeah, Matt Larkin did not have Scheifele, which he didn't have him for the Four Nations.
Yeah, but then he had him on when he was with us a couple months ago or a month ago or so, and now he's gone back to being off. I mean, it'll be tight for Mark. I mean, listen, there's a handful of guys, and Wyatt Johnston's a perfect example, and Seth Jarvis, who was on the Four Nations team. All of these players, I think they'd be more than confident to put on the team. There's only so many spots.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't want to sewer Matt Larkin. No, he did have Scheifele on as fourth line.
Oh, okay, yeah,
center there.
He said that the last time.
He said that he had him on, and Stephen Ellis had him on too. They both had him on. So again, he's the fifth leading scorer for Canada. And if you want to sort by goal, points per game or points per 60, he's top five. So yeah, I don't know how you wouldn't find room for this guy. Hey, they didn't pick the best goalie last year, and Logan Thompson was clear-cut best Canadian goalie and didn't pick him. Obviously, it worked out. Binnington was incredible. I don't know if you can get away with that 2 times in a row here, though.
Well, no, and Paul Coffey, 77 in chat, says Binnington's better than those 3. Not in 2025, Paul. He and Montembeault have been the 2 worst goalies in the league. I know Stuart Skinner was in the mix a little earlier. I'm not sure where he's at right now, but I mean, Joel Hofer is playing. And I mean, the thing, and we mentioned this when we were talking with Brandon, but there's that. I mean, the fact that Doug Armstrong is the GM of the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
And, much like, can you imagine if it was Kevin Cheveldayoff making the decision on Team Canada and didn't bring a Mark Scheifele? Now, Scheifele's body of work to make the team this year far better than what Binnington has done. But Binnington has the background. Binnington has the gold medal. Binnington has the memory of the last time in international competition he really was the difference between a gold and a silver medal. So I kind of do think that he'll be on the team, but I don't think there's any doubt that Logan Thompson, certainly based on what he's done over the last 2 seasons, should be the guy that gets the call for Canada. And whether you're going Blackwood, whether you're going Kemper has won a cup, if that is something that, kind of pushes it in his favor. Let us know here. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? Who do you think the goalies will be for Canada when they are announced tomorrow? Obviously Mackenzie Blackwood with the Avalanches in the mix. He was on Craig and MJ's list. Kemper. And it's safe to say that if Logan Thompson is not on this team when it is announced tomorrow, it will have nothing to do with his play, and it'll have everything to do with probably his relationship with some people from his former team with the Vegas Golden Knights. But from a Hockey Canada perspective, I don't know how you could leave that guy off, considering what he's doing again this year.
Yeah, Darcy Kemper's an interesting one. He's had great last 2 years. Wasn't he Vezina finalist last year? And he hasn't won a cup. I think that's a bonus for him who's played in pressure situations. You mentioned Binnington. I mean, Eric Comrie, among Canadian goalies, has better stats than Binnington this year. Stuart Skinner has better stats than Binnington this year. Now, we did talk with Jamie Rivers, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? And he was saying, the team just played atrocious in front of him. But, I mean, at a certain point, you are where your numbers are. And I would have a hard time leaving him off if you're Doug Armstrong and what he's done and what he did. I mean, last time I said after 4 Nations, he's earned the spot on the team. It was kind of interesting that they didn't name him as part of the original 6, so he hadn't really locked it down. That would be tough. He hasn't played well, though, and there's a lot of other Canadian goalies, Thompson, Kemper, Blackwood, who have played better than him. So,
well, I'm glad we got a chance to talk a little bit about the Wings today, because I have a feeling that tomorrow, as much as it is a game day, we are going to be breaking down Team Canada's roster top to bottom, and we'll have Marty Baron on with us at 1:30 to do that. Jeff Hamilton will jump on with us as well. And we'll probably get some reaction from around the league. Let's head over to Coolbet and take a look at what we've got cooking tonight. Canada off at the World Juniors. We do have a couple games, though. Germany and Switzerland are playing right now. Oh, the Swiss up 4-0. Denmark and Latvia later on. And then tomorrow, the traditional New Year's Eve games. 5 p.m., Sweden and the USA. And then, which is nice for us considering the Jets and Wings dropped the puck at 5:30. As soon as that's over, we can transition over to the big one for first place in the pool, Finland versus Canada. If you're wanting a Canada-USA final, I think we want both of these teams to win. I guess conversely, if both of them finish second, at least they'd still be on opposite sides of the draw. Canada, for what it's worth, a minus 357 favorite tomorrow. Finland plus 272, which I think maybe overvalues Canada a little bit on that number. USA minus 132, and the Swedes. Alphonse Frey having a nice tournament. Sasha Boumedienne getting on the score sheet as well yesterday. Tonight in the NHL, we have 4 games. Panthers got a big win last night. They're back at it tonight at home against the Montreal Canadiens. Panthers are minus 130, Habs plus 110. And then it's the rest of the slate is home dogs. Carolina minus 130 at Pittsburgh, who's plus 110. Devils at minus 133 at the Leafs, who are plus 113. Islanders minus 139 on the road against the Blackhawks at plus 118. And the Philadelphia Flyers are in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. Philly minus 130 and Vancouver plus 110. Any thoughts on the slate tonight, Remo?
Yeah, well, I got to dig up the Montreal TSN feed because Kevin Sawyer and Dan Robertson will be doing that game as the Jets have been on the national broadcast Monday and Wednesday. And I guess Brian Mudryk and Frank Corrado are doing World Juniors. So if you miss Dan and Kevin, find the TSN feed of Montreal, Florida.
Worked out for those guys pretty well. Heading down, maybe chopping it up at the Elbow Room down in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh,
after
yeah.
the game. Great time to do a Habs game when they happen to be in Florida. And I would imagine that game in Sunrise tonight will probably look like a lot of Canadian buildings where the Habs are on the road. Tons of Quebecers go down there each and every year. And I know there's some areas where people aren't traveling to. Florida seems to be one that people are. So I would expect a lot of Habs fans at this game tonight. I think of the road teams. I do like Carolina and the Islanders in this one. What about in Vancouver? Vancouver as a home dog tonight. Well, consider putting that on. We had a nice one last night with Florida, Buffalo, and the Minnesota Wild. Wild were up 5-0 on the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas got a couple there, but still the cream of the crop. Class of the league right now is the Central Division, or the top of it at least, with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, number 1, 2, and 3 in the standings, and as well in the Chud Sports Power Poll, which we will update tomorrow for the National Hockey League. Great stuff today, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. Fun chatting with Ken, Sean, and Brandon, although would have been nicer to be doing a bit of we'd be talking about a win. Played very well last night, but again, that just doesn't cut it right now when you are where they are in the standings. Still lots of hockey to be played, but this turnaround has to start now if they're going to salvage this season. Next chance to get some points tomorrow night in the Motor City. 5:30 start, New Year's Eve. We will be on tomorrow live at 1 to break down Canada's Olympic hockey roster. Will Mark Scheifele be on the team? We will find out tomorrow. And Marty Baron will join us in addition to Hammer and others to talk about it all. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow to break down who's wearing the red and white in Italy at the Olympic Games for the men's hockey team tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.